To anyone who knows me, it comes as no surprise that Cormac McCarthy is one of my favourite authors, up there with people such as Harlan Ellison, H.P. Lovecraft and George Orwell. Across his work, from The Orchard Keeper to Blood Meridian to finally today's subject The Road, there is a persistent and deeply unsettling suggestion that meaning is not hidden from us within the corner of the universe, but may simply not exist in the form we want it to. His landscapes do not bend towards justice, and his stories do not have happy endings, with all the problems solved, and his characters are rarely rewarded for their endurance and determination to continue through the harsh words he has written. The universe in McCarthy's fiction continues forward with or without us, indifferent to who survives, long enough to interpret it. The Road inherits this outlook completely. It does not ask how the world ended, because the answer would not alter the condition of those still trapped inside it. It does not frame suffering as required development or pain as necessary growth. Instead, existence is simply expected. You'll survive or you won't. In The Orchard Keeper, decay unfolds slowly and quietly, communities rot from the inside, people vanish without explanation. The novel portrays a rapidly disappearing pre-modern way of life that is being preyed upon by government, industry and law. The landscape itself is a primary character, described with intense, beautiful and violent imagery, but the violence does not announce itself as a parade, but arrives as if expected, folded into rhythms of daily life. The same sensibility carries forward into The Road, only stripped of what little social structure once remained. Everything is now just a total collapse. And unlike something like Harlan Ellison's I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream, The Road feels far removed from science fiction. It is not imagining a future so much as shattering what remains, when every comforting story we tell ourselves about humanity moving forward without looking back has failed. And yet buried beneath McCarthy's bleakest vision, something persists, not as optimism but a quieter and far more fragile impulse. The decision to be good, even when the universe offers no reason to care for others. As previously mentioned, there are apocalypse stories that comfort us. They burn the world down only to quietly promise that something better will rise from the ashes. Even at their bleakest, they tend to end with a message of validation. The collapse is merely a footnote, that humanity will return wiser and more deserving of whatever future waits beyond the ruins. And The Road just refuses that lie outright. In John Hillcoat's 2009 adaptation of McCarthy's novel, it imagines the end of the world not as a show but as an inevitable condition, an event where most survive the initial disaster just to see the horror awaiting in the future. And the catastrophe has already happened long before the film begins, and what we witness instead is meaning withering away day by day, until even the idea of improvement feels like passed down falsehoods. At its core, The Road is about hope, but not the kind that promises reward. It is about morality stripped of enforcement or outcome. It is about survival with what's there, and most of all, it is about inheritance, not of land or wealth, but of a morality that can't be replicated. What survives when everything else is gone is not infrastructure, but instructions. One of the most radical yet important decisions The Road makes is its refusal to explain itself. We are never told what ended the world. There is no Michael Bay montage of collapse, no news footage, no Fallout-style scientists warning us that it's already too late. The film begins after curiosity has become irrelevant. Knowing why would not change the inevitable outcome. The removal of context is not merely because McCarthy feels like there's no need for an explanation. It's his own version of alignment. By denying the audience answers, the film prevents the audience from becoming content. We can debate the apocalypse or assign blame, but what's the point? We cannot argue with the end of the world. We are forced to live inside its consequences, just as the boy and his father do. Structurally, there are no traditional acts and no sincere rise to happy resolutions. Progress exists to a bare minimum, food spoils, shelter collapses, safety barely exists, survival becomes repetitive, robotic, and exhausting. And Hillcoat's pacing reflects this reality with near-punishing restraint. Scenes linger until comfort drains out of them, silence dominates the soundscape, dialogue is sparse and often repetitive, because survival doesn't need a lot of commandments. The film does not move forward because it is going somewhere. It moves forward because stopping would mean death. Visually, the world is stripped almost entirely of life. Greys and dead browns cover the scenery, while daylight itself looks sickly. Wide shots do not offer relief, or they emphasise absence of life of any kind. The world has not become hostile, it has become uninterested in those who rely on it. The father in the film is not a heroic figure. He is a man whose only identity has been reduced to a responsibility in a world where responsibility offers no protection and no reward. His masculinity is not expressed through dominance or strength, but through vigilance. He watches constantly, he calculates endlessly, his body wastes away, but his fear remains sharp, even as he drifts more and more into paranoia. Psychologically, he lives in a state of permanent grief. He's not afraid of dying, even the film's showing he expects this soon. He's afraid of leaving. Every decision he makes is haunted by the question of what will happen to his son when he is no longer there to make decisions for him. Survival for the father is not about living, it is about delaying abandonment of his son that has only ever known the road ahead of him. The father wants to believe in good of the world, but struggles as any of us would. His ethics are not cruel, but they are defensive, shaped entirely by what the world has taught him to fear. His wife's suicide represents an ideological rupture he cannot escape, where he sees continuation as cruelty. He sees endurance as duty, but this duty corrodes him. It transforms fear into wisdom and suspicion into virtue. Father does not teach the boy how to live in the world. He teaches him how to survive a world he believes will never improve. The boy represents a fundamentally different orientation towards the world. He has no nostalgia for what was lost, and no expectation that existence owes him anything. The absence becomes his freedom, but also his biggest trap. Unlike his father, the boy's morality is not defensive, it is instinctive. He understands danger and recognises cruelty, but refuses to let fear become the foundation of his ethical framework. When he insists on helping others, it is not because he believes goodness will be rewarded, but because connection itself is proof that humanity has not entirely gone. His repeated question whether they are still the good guys is not naive, it is foundational. Without moral categories, survival becomes indistinguishable from atrocity. The boy does not believe goodness will save him. He believes goodness is what makes survival worth attempting it at all. The road presents survival without giving us any form of validation. Living is not proof of virtue or intelligence, it is evidence of timing, chance, luck, and how far someone else was willing to go before you. Cannibalism is not shown to be a monstrous deviation, but as a logical outcome. When systems collapse, ethics will always follow. The horror lies not in shock, but in recognizability, in how inevitable these outcomes feel once structure disappears. This is McCarthy's nihilism at its most severe. The suggestion that is stripped of order and law, humanity treads not towards cooperation, but even deeper into consumption. And yet the film refuses complete surrender to nihilism, even in a universe where Mother Nature seems to have just said fuck you to humanity. Choice still exists, decisions continue to define people who they are to each other, even when no decisions guarantee survival. And pouring salt into a wound, in the credits of the film we hear children playing, a lawnmower, police sirens, and just simply a reminder of what may be gone one day without warning or without a call. The fire the characters claim to carry is never explained deliberately, because explanation would diminish its strength within them. It is not a plan or a promise, but continuity itself, the last of morality without enforcement or fear. The road leads nowhere. There is no destination capable of saving them. Movement exists not to arrive, but to resist despair. To stop walking is to surrender, and the man has to constantly believe there is something better ahead, if not for him, then for the sake of his child. Memory becomes a burden rather than a comfort. The father's memories of his wife and life before the road trap him in grief and desperation, while the boy's lack of memory allows him to imagine a future unshackled from what no longer exists. Hope in the road is basically just refusal. The father's death arrives without shock, as it's been pointed to the entire film. There is no triumph or happy ending, only exhaustion finally reaching its limit. From a narrative structure, his purpose as a father has been fulfilled. He has taught the boy how to survive, but more importantly, he has taught the boy what he can do to go on. His absence creates space, but space does not equal safety, yet gives a hope of possibility. Without fear and paranoia as the driving force, the boy is free to act according to instinct rather than anxiety. His trust in the family that has been supposedly following him becomes a choice rather than a mistake. McCarthy ends the novel with a vision of beauty so complete it cannot be recovered. The book is mourning what is forever lost. The film finishes on the fragile possibility of community. It suggests that morality once inherited may outlive those who have taught it. The two endings do not contradict each other, they emphasize different truths. The past is dead, but what matters is who will do what they need to do to survive it.